Hey guys, before you watch this Kill Team review, just want to let you know that at the end, I'm going to talk about a link in the video description to a couple of Kill Team battle reports in the MiniWarGaming Vault. So after you watch this, if you're a Vault member, just go ahead and click the link to watch a couple games that we played, just to show off the Kill Team rules. If you're not a Vault member, you can still click it, get a free 7-day trial to the MiniWarGaming Vault, get instant access to those battle reports, as well as thousands of others.
We play and call it work.
Hey everybody, Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com, and in this video I want to review the new Kill Team update that Games Workshop recently came out with. I am a big fan of Kill Team overall because I love what it does for 40K. If you're not familiar with what Kill Team is, it's an add-on to 40K that was introduced, I want to say 4th edition, although I don't remember exactly when I first saw it. It essentially allows you to play 40K at a very small scale, in fact at around 200 points. It changes the rules a bit by making every model act independently. So even though you still buy models in squads, when they actually hit the battlefield, they each act as almost like they're each an independent character, but they're not allowed to join each other at all. So it changes the dynamics of the game because all of a sudden you're playing with just a few models. It turns 40K into a super skirmish game. And I know some people might already consider it to be a skirmish game, but I'm talking like skirmish game on the scale of things like Infinity or maybe War Machine. Those types of games where you only have anywhere from 5 to 20 models. You could have more if you want to spam some really cheap units as well, but overall it's really cheap. So this has been around for a while and it's gone through a few iterations. It's gotten better since 4th edition, and I want to talk about mainly the differences between the 6th edition Kill Team and the one that we just got. In other words, the one that we just had versus the one that we have now. Now, before we go any further, there are a lot of downsides to playing Kill Team as well. If you try to play it competitively, you're going to be disappointed because there are a lot of ways to break it. Now, thankfully, they've removed some of those ways, which we'll talk about in a moment. But they really, when you play a game at 200 points, things get a little wonky. Things don't balance the way that they did before. Now, there are certain restrictions. When you're building your Kill Team, the force org chart is 0 to 2 troops, 0 to 1 fast attack, and 0 to 1 elite. And so it does restrict, there's no HQs that you can bring, there's no heavy support that you can bring. It also says you're not allowed to have 2+ armor saves, you can't have anything with more than 3 wounds or hull points, you're not allowed to bring flyers, and at least 4 of the models need to be non-vehicles. Because you then nominate one model, the one with the highest leadership, or anyone that you want to choose if they're all tied, or several are tied, to be your leader, and you choose 3 other models, non-vehicle models, to be specialists. The leader gets a warlord trait of sorts that hasn't changed. That's one thing that hasn't changed from 6th edition Kill Teams to this one. They're all the same. The 3 specialists, there's 5 charts to choose from. Some are like close combat related, some are shooting related, some are like guerrilla tactics related, some are dirty tricks. And you basically say this specialist chooses from this one. No 2 specialists can choose from the same list. And then there's a list of special rules on there. For example, one might have rending, or +1 ballistic skill, or +1 weapon skill, or just a lot of different ones that can actually be accessible according to which one you choose. And you get to just choose one, they're not randomly assigned. So what has changed there from 6th edition to 7th edition? Well, not a whole lot. That is mainly the same. What I noticed as I went through it and compared the two was that each of them added 1 or 2 new rules and maybe removed 1 or 2 as well. And I can see why they changed the ones that they did. It's essentially a rules update from 6th edition to 7th edition. So before I go any further, if you're expecting this to be a huge change to the Kill Team rules, maybe they looked at the Heralds of Ruin Kill Team, if you're familiar with those, and said, hey, we should try to do it like that. They didn't. They didn't try to really update it that much. They instead updated it for 7th edition because there were some obvious holes in the way the rules were written in 6th edition when 7th edition came out. So you have your 3 specialists, you have a leader, and then on top of that, it also comes with 6 Kill Team missions, which have pretty much not changed one little bit, except for a couple of minor rules changes, which are incredibly minor. One of them it's supposed to be like a hill in the middle, and now it's just a piece of terrain. One of them actually is, I think, a little more poorly written now in 7th edition. It's the one where it's a night fighting one, and your guys, before the game starts, you roll a single d6 for each guy, and if you roll a 1 or 2, they gain outflank. Well, in the 6th edition, it says they're not deployed, and they outflank instead. In this one, it says if you roll a 1 or 2, they gain outflank. If you roll 3+, just deploy them normally. So I assume that they meant that it's like the old one where they have to outflank. So it actually introduced a bit of an ambiguity there, whereas the 6th edition one was a lot more clear. And so that hasn't really changed. The missions haven't really changed. The special rules were updated so that they make a little more sense. They have better names, and the rules kind of gel a little bit more with 7th edition. And then the part where it talks about the individual special rules for the different armies is updated as well. Like, for example, before, the Necrons had a different kind of reanimation protocols, and so they had to specify when they could take it. They just removed that now because it's just a feel of pain. They added that orcs don't use mob rules, Scutarii don't use their Doctrina, the Khorne Demonkin don't use blood for the blood god. They clarified that demons don't use the Warpstorm table, and they're fearless, whereas before they didn't gain fearless, they were still demonic instability. And that makes a difference because fearless models don't have to pass break tests. You see, when your army gets down to less than 50% strength, and not in points but in number of models, at the beginning of each of your turns, every model has to pass a leadership test or be removed from the board. Now, your leader has an aura of 6 inches, a command aura or command, whatever it's called, bubble, that if he passes his break test, then every model within 6 inches automatically passes as well. But fearless models never break. And so now demons are all fearless rather than having demonic instability, which is a quasi-fearless, but since it's not fearless, they would still have to take break tests. So that's been changed as well. So little minor modifications like that to kind of update everything to the new codexes, update the rules to 7th edition. The missions haven't really changed. The warlord traits are word for word. Heck, even a lot of the fluff. When I was comparing the two, I had to make sure I remembered which one I was looking at because they were almost word for word copy and paste fluff-wise as well. So Kill Team's a lot of fun. There are a lot of problems with it though, like I said, if you try to play it competitively. For example, the psychic phase is totally bonkers. Because now you're playing at 200 points, but you're still harnessing D6 warp charges plus whatever mastery level you have. Now, if you picture that you have a 2,000 point game, and you look at the average army will have anywhere from 2 to 10 warp charges available for their mastery levels of their guys. I know you can go much higher than that. I'm talking average armies will have a couple psychers, or if you're playing Tyranids, you might have a few, and you might have half a dozen. And so when you look at that 2 to 10, or even 2 to 5, and you add D6, it's not this big disparity. But when you go down to a 200-point game, you're most likely only going to have one psyker. So that level 1 psyker or that level 2 psyker, maybe, if that's what you have, all of a sudden gets D6 extra warp charges. Now, for a lot of armies, their psykers are in their HQ options, so that's not a big deal. And before you say, well, what about the Grey Knights? The Brotherhood of Psykers is not allowed to be used. So you basically lose the ability to be psykers if all you have is Brotherhood of Psykers. Now, having said that, the Psychic is not going to be as big a deal because mostly only the Eldar and Harlequins, from what I can recall off the top of my head, have access to Psykers that are not Brotherhood of Psykers that are troops or elites. I know the Eldar have it with their Warlocks that are just part of their troop choices, and the Harlequins, of course, have a Shadow Seer, which is an elite choice. And pretty much all the other ones, even the Weird Vein Psykers for the Astra Militarum, they're Brotherhood of Psykers, so they wouldn't work. Zoanthropes wouldn't work because they're Brotherhood of Psykers as well. There's no way to get a Turvagon as a troop choice because that's more than 3 wounds anyways. And so the problems with the Psychic phase aren't as big a deal. But when you do face it, it will be a little overpowered and also underpowered. Because think of it this way, certain powers, such as Novas, hit each unit within a certain distance. And so if every model is a unit, then all of a sudden those powers become more useful. Whereas blessings and maledictions target units as well, but only one. And so if you're trying to maledict, usually you could maledict a whole group of guys, and now you can only do one. And so blessings and maledictions get nerfed for the most part, but novas get ridiculously overpowered. So I don't know, maybe that balances out so it's not too big a deal. You probably won't see much psychic stuff unless you're facing Eldar or Harlequins. Honestly, I can't think of any other ones. Oh, Chaos Space Marines with the Tzeentch, the Thousand Suns. The Sergeant is the Sorcerer, and they'll have some psychic powers as well. But even demons, for the most part, are Brotherhoods, the psychers that you'll find in the troop choices. So you won't really have to deal with those that much, or at all, I don't think. So for the most part, the psychic phase being imbalanced is not too big an issue. You will find difficulties with vehicles. There's restriction to what vehicles you can bring. They can't have any more than 33 hull points when you add up their front, side, and rear. So that basically allows you to fit in some of the normal transports like rhinos or razorbacks or the devilfish, for example. But technically, it would allow you to bring a Necron Ghost Ark as well because it's 11, 11, 11. But thankfully, those ones are too expensive to fit, and they have more than 3 hull points. and so that's not an issue. But you will find that vehicles can be a little difficult to take care of unless you're ready for them, just because they're a lot faster than your average troop. But overall, that's not a problem either. You will get some wonky things with the universal special rules. For example, if you somehow have a guy with Zealot, although most of those are in your HQ choices, or more likely a character with Stubborn, or a character with Split Fire, or a character that grants the unit something, all of a sudden it won't be granting anybody anything. Or if you have some way to give an apothecary to a group that's an elite squad, for example, that apothecary will be on his own and will not be giving Feel No Pain to anybody. So you have to be aware of things like that. Or if you like to upgrade your sergeant to have +1 leadership to normally help your squad, that won't help your squad because he'll be on his own, unless of course he's the team leader. But then even then it's only his bubble of 6 inches that'll actually make that difference. So you get kind of wonky things that get affected by this, but a lot of them are solved by the fact that they don't allow HQs or heavy support. So most of the psychers, most of the super strong characters, and the super strong heavy support aren't even allowed to be taken. And then they say no 2+ saves and the armor value can't be too high. So overall that kind of helps to bring it down. But you're still going to find that people can find ways to make these super powered 200-point lists and when you're just trying to play fluffy. But that's just like what 40k is anyways. So it's a really fun game to play. But if you had the 6th edition one, don't expect the 7th edition to have some huge changes. And so if you're looking for a more developed kill team, what I would suggest is you check out Heralds of Ruin kill team. So just Google Heralds of Ruin kill team. I can't see it, it's like a blog spot thing, so it's a long URL. I'll put a link in the video description to them as well. What they've done is they've gone through all the armies, and they've actually totally rewritten the rules for all of them to fit in a model-by-model basis. And they even incorporate squads back into it. And they fix a lot of the problems that you might have there. And they make it a lot more interesting. And they update the actual rules for Kill Team, so it works at a small scale. It's really totally different than Games Workshop's Kill Team rules altogether. And so but it's a lot of fun. It's actually what the basis of what we use in a lot of our campaigns, where everything's a small scale. We'll use the Heralds of Ruin Kill Team. But by all means, if you're just looking for something really fun to play and really quick, pick up the Kill Team rules. The one thing it does add on, I should say, is at the end it has 2 data sheets for a couple of squads, the Space Marine squad and Tau squad. It's basically the ones that come in the box set. So overall, a lot of fun, not a lot of changes, more just fixing it for 7th edition. They didn't really reinvent anything or do any drastic changes, and just a lot of fun to play. And once again, once you've kind of had your fill of playing just a simplistic version of Kill Team, then I would strongly recommend checking out Heralds of Ruin, which has a very fleshed out rule system and a lot of fun to play, and a campaign system, and their own set of missions as well. It's just been great for that. So right now, we're going to be playing a couple of the Kill Team games from the 40k version of it, and that will be available in the MiniWarGaming Vault at the link in the video description below. And so you can go and check that out right now. If you're not a Vault member, you can still click it, get a free 7-day trial, get instant access to those, and check out all the other stuff that is in the Vault. Thanks for watching, and happy wargaming.